welcome to TisTalk.
Welcome to TisTalk. This is a podcast coming from Tisbury, Wiltshire and surrounding villages. I'm Julianne Murphy.
And I'm Mary Myers.
This is the week beginning Monday, the 27th of January. Hello, Mary.
Hi, Julianne. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. So this week in Tisbury, there was a post about why isn't there a good Tisbury website? Did you see that?
I did, yes. Well, I know something about that.
Okay.
Because it was in the parish council minutes, actually, from last month. And there is going to be a parish website. In fact, there are going to be two. So the parish council have secured a grant for £10,000 to make a new village website to increase footfall on the high street. So that'll be all about visiting Tisbury, about the businesses, about what's going on. And so that's quite good. So that's £10,000 coming with a special grant.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Tisbury Parish Council website is being redone as we speak and should be ready very soon, like in the next couple of weeks. So that's separate from the Tisbury Village website, this new one about the businesses and activities, but that's also being revamped. So it's good news coming up very soon. Tisbury will have good websites for the parish council and for the village itself.
And the village itself, which I suppose, outsiders would be looking at more, will that be kept updated?
Yes, it will.
So it's going to be maintained. So it's going to be somebody's job to look after that website.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we'll be just as good as Fovant and West Tisbury and Anstey.
And Anstey, yeah.
And, or maybe even better.
Who knows? Okay.
Yeah. And talking of new websites, TisTalk's got a new Facebook page, and it's called TisTalk Community Podcast. So I hope listeners will go to that and like it, which would be useful. We've still got TisTalk listeners and fans, but we had a problem with our dedicated page last term. We were hacked, as you remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So now we've got a new one, TisTalk Community Podcast. It looks the same. It's got our lovely little duckling and our yellow colouring and our beautiful faces, you and me looking out.
Gorgeous.
So if people can bear looking at us, please like it. What have we got on this week? We've got Lizzie Paylan, who's a nature author. And we've got the Yew Tree again. It's great to have Liz Coyle-Camp back, and she's going to be talking about, she's going to be telling us about the Reformation through the eyes of the Yew Tree.
Yeah, a tricky time for Tisbury, I think, the Reformation. So it'll be interesting to see what the Yew Tree thinks.
But I think you know, because you wrote it. There we are. And then we've got Pat Ost, who everyone will know as the former landlady of the Southwestern. And then we've got the What Songs, and then we've got a comic poem by Simon Holder.
Okay. So, on with the show?
Yes, on with the show. First up, Anne Martin talks to Lizzie Paylan, who's a nature writer, and she lives in Tisbury.
I'm sitting with Lizzie Paylan in her lovely, warm sitting room with her dog, talking about her new book, When Nature Nurtures. So, Lizzie, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, a girlfriend of mine, it was in the pandemic, and she told me that Tisbury was having a writing competition. And so I wrote the story about a dragonfly rescue from my pond. And I went on to win first prize and a lovely £50 gift voucher, book voucher. And I bought a fabulous book, 1,000 Places to See Before You Die. And I just carried on writing other stories, and I made a little book. Sold, only printed, not published. Sold a few, thanks to dear Harry down in Beaton's coffee shop. And a friend of mine messaged and said, where could we get more books for Christmas presents? And I thought, I need to have a go at getting this published. I need to believe in myself. And so Nature Nurture was born.
And in the book, you've got lots of drawings as well. So is this something that you love doing as well as writing, drawing?
Yeah, I have sketched and doodled my whole life. Yeah, started books. And so this is my first completed story.
Oh, good. And so it's not just about nature, is it? Because it's a bit about your life, really, and where you've lived and what's inspired you about the places that you've lived in.
Oh, definitely, yes. And quite a nasty breakup with a boyfriend, but how the animals guided me and kept me going and showed me the way. So
oh, that's lovely. And so how did they show you the way to Tisbury? What possessed you to come and live here?
Well, that was my wonderful stepmother. Don't ever call her wicked stepmothers. She was fantastic, but she had leukemia, and I came to stay, and she said, I have a choice. I can go into a hospice, or what's the little home in the village? Albany House. And I said, you're not doing any of those. I will look after you. Oh. So when she left me a bungalow and 2 little dogs. So happy days.
Oh,
happy days.
How
yeah,
lovely.
Magical.
How lovely.
And she just said, I just wish I'd be here to see what you do with the place. And but I think she'd be proud of me.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You've changed your garden quite a bit, haven't you, over the years? Because I noticed you've got some drawings or paintings of birds in your garden as well now. Is this an ongoing project to change your garden and to make it more wildlife friendly?
Oh, definitely. And this year I let nature do its own thing. And it was magical. Everybody's moaning they don't have butterflies or birds. And I thought, well, they're all in my garden. Because I've left it absolutely where whatever wanted to grow, I left it.
And tell me about some of your other projects, because I can see behind me you've got a kind of fungus pole in your sitting room. So what's that?
I just love the colours of funguses. And one day I decided that I'd make a fungus tree for the living room. It needed brightening up.
So you're bringing the nature into your home.
I have to get through these dreadful dark nights. The minute the 21st of December comes, I feel better. Some people don't like January, February, but to me, things are poking through even then. So I'm ready to go again.
What's your favourite disc to take to a desert island?
Oh, I would have to take Kate Bush.
Oh, any particular song of Kate Bush or?
Probably Cloud Busting.
Oh, right.
Because when I'm having troubles, I go to high ground and I have a good shout. And there's a wonderful video of her with, what is his name? I can't think. But he plays her father in the video, and he's creating clouds at the top of White Horse Hill. It is magical.
Lovely. What do you most like or dislike about Tisbury?
Most like is probably that it doesn't matter what direction you go, there's a beautiful walk. Don't need a car. You're straight out of your door.
And any dislikes?
Just the people that don't pick up after their dogs or like to hang it in the trees for us all to admire. I don't understand that, but...
What's your favourite local view?
Probably up behind the long thatch barn. If you go up the hill where the sheep normally graze and look back, but especially on a cold day and see all the little chimneys burning in the distance, I know I'm home.
Lovely. Can you complete this sentence? Not many people know this about Tisbury, but...
Tisbury years ago had its own stone circle. Not sure if it was a henge, but it had a stone circle. And It was in the end of the 18th century. The last 3 stones got taken up to Old Wardour to be used as the grotto. And there's a field somewhere there called Lost Stones Field, apparently.
Oh, right. So a few quick answers. Dogs or cats?
Both.
Tea or coffee?
Both.
We're doing well here, aren't we? Beer
Tea
or...
to get up to, coffee before lunch. Coffee at 11.
Oh, right. Beer or wine?
Oh, I like alcohol. I do.
Keeps you going in those dark winter days, doesn't it? Football or rugby?
Or rugby.
Radios 1, 2, 3 or other? Radio 4 maybe?
Probably 4 for the interesting talk shows and yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So going back to your book, if anybody wants to buy your book, which I'm sure they will, because there's lots of stuff about nature in Tisbury in it, how would they buy your book?
It's on the internet, we call it, the internet.
Yeah.
With Amazon, with W.H. Smith's, with... what's the other
Waterstones,
one?
I think.
Waterstones. Now, Waterstones was my dream. 5 years ago, I said to my son, standing outside Waterstones in Witney, before I die, I want my book in the window.
Oh.
And that was my dream. And the other day, he'd bought it. How rotten mother am I? He had to buy his own book. He bought it, made a video of him unwrapping it, and he showed me the receipt, and he said, Waterstones, Mum, you've done it.
Oh.
And I thought, if you don't have a dream, how can you make a dream come true? So I'm very happy.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
I hope everybody enjoys.
Thank you.
And that was a short extract from Cloud Busting by Kate Bush. For our lovely guest this week, Lizzie Paylan.
TisTalk, a podcast from Tisbury on tistalk.buzzsprout.com.
This week, the Yew Tree is witnessing the upheaval of the Reformation and its effect on Tisbury.
On May 19th, 1536, I was just standing around twiddling my twigs when I became very aware of some agitated chatter taking place in my midst. I listened in, not, you understand, because I am a nosy so-and-so. No, not at all. It was because I just knew to the end of my roots that something important was afoot, and as Tisbury's premier tree, it was incumbent upon me to know exactly what was going on at all times. A group of men gathered in their peculiar attire of the time, all ruffs and saggy woolly hose, were discussing some terrible news that had finally reached Tisbury, hence their distress. The Queen was dead. Not only was she dead, her husband, King Henry VIII, had her put to her death by means of a sword disengaging her head from her neck. Oh, what the holly tree! I gasped to myself. The king has had his own wife felled like a rotting oak. Well, I was shaken to my inner bark. What sort of man does that to his own wife? Queen Anne Boleyn was dead, and the turbulence their marriage had kicked off was only just getting started. I wept. Well, no, I didn't, let's be honest, I can't weep, but I metaphorically wept for all that had happened in order to justify this brutally terminated marriage, and what the implications would be for my poor Tisbury folk. For all my superiority in the looks department, bottomless wisdom, and endless experience in the strange ways of man, I couldn't see what more changes this might bring. Could our dashing king be a little unstable? If a firebrand like Anne Boleyn ended up on the block, Well, what more turmoil was coming over the hill? It didn't take long to find out. 3 years later, the Abbey in Shaftesbury, the first religious house for women ever established in England, was closed down by order of the king. The nuns were booted out of their collective ear. The land and villages owned by the Abbey were dispersed amongst the king's go-getting courtiers, and a certain Sir Thomas Arundel, one of the beneficiaries of the great Shaftesbury Abbey giveaway, acquired much of Tisbury and its surrounding villages for his services to the West Country and his reputation as a brilliant officer of the court. That, and perhaps the fact he was married to the king's, by then, fourth wife's sister. Well, he wasn't alone. Another beneficiary was a certain Lawrence Hyde of Hatch House. Alliteration. He very successfully climbed the greasy pole of Tudor advancement whilst siring 6 sons and 4 daughters with his poor wife Anne Sibel. Hyde was related to several powerful families, and he would pass on his DNA as the great-grandfather of 2 English queens, Queen Mary II and Queen Anne. Of course, he still keeps me company, seeing as he is buried here in my graveyard, and I hear there's a shiny brass picture of him and his wife and 10 children inside the church. Changing religious worship rituals was not news to me. I told you how, if you go back far enough, the locals used to worship a certain yew tree. I think I have mentioned it, yes? But the changes to my dear old St. John's Church here seemed somewhat brutal. All the lovely fancy bits were stripped out alongside any priest that refused the new liturgy, and everyone was encouraged to take up the new forms of worship with enticing offers like turn your back on Rome or burn on a pyre. Most Tisburgers went to church as usual and became Protestants, but many didn't seem to take to these new modern church rituals with quite the same enthusiasm as everyone else. Particularly the folks who lived over the valley in Wardour. They felt protected under the staunchly Catholic Lord Arundel. So, whether secretly or openly, they carried on practising the Church of Rome Mass. What verve! Next time, the Elizabethan era is upon us.
This is TisTalk from Tisbury, Wiltshire.
Now, Pat Oates wants to thank the people of Tisbury for supporting her fundraising over the years.
So I'm here with Pat Oates, well-known local and much missed ex-landlady of the Southwestern pub. Now, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Pat. What is it you wanted TisTalk listeners to know about?
My talking to TisTalk today is all about handing out, I hope, a big thank you to the very, very generous people of Tisbury. All through my years of service at the Southwestern, there was a lot of charity stuff going on, and then even since that, but we're bringing to a close one of our charitable events, and I wanted to talk very briefly about that and say again a big thank you.
So this is a charitable event you've been running for over 20 years? Okay. And it was dedicated to who?
To a gentleman who is a part of my extended family called Dennis Boyle, who used to come and visit me. He was my sister's husband and played golf every time he came over and stayed with some of the local people. And he was well known, very popular with the golfing fraternity here, and they used to play up at Rushmore.
And he died?
Yes, he died in 2003, and in 2004 2004, we set up the Dennis Boyle Memorial Annual Trophy to be played at Rushmore each year, and we had tremendous response.
So you were saying 60 to 70 people used to go up once a year?
Yeah. Every year in July usually, and play golf in his memory, and quite substantial sums of money were raised because we did it as a charity as well. And for example, the last year we did it, which was last year in 2024, we raised nearly, I think it was about £4,000 on the day to give to the respite centre that's attached to Southampton Hospital treating cancer patients.
So you've raised all this money over the years, but you're now bringing this to a close.
Yes, and the reason for that is that 20 years on, some of the people, even though it's still very well supported, a lot of the people who actually come to this golf tournament never knew Dennis. There's still some of the older people that know him, and we thought that 20 years was a sort of tie all the ends up bit, that we'd done such a lot for the community. Every year we gave a local charity something, and then the next year we would do a national charity. You know.
Oh, I see. So... Oh, that's great. So Tisbury Swimming Pool benefited from that.
Yeah, Salisbury Hospice.
And Salisbury Hospice. Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. But you're not exactly finishing off in that you're going to carry on, or part of the family are, in another way?
Yes, we are. Although I myself am not very proactive these days, there's still this, I think it's in our DNA, this charitable stuff, because I've always been so happy in Tisbury, as have my family as well. And I've always felt very conscious of how good Tisbury has been to me, both as a businesswoman and now as a retiree. And so our next project is, I hope some of you will have heard of a very local charity. In fact, it's based in Shaftesbury, called Boobs, which essentially was a charity dealing with ladies who had breast cancer and helping them out with all sorts of nice things after their surgeries. They've now extended it that they want to include cancer patients, and so we are now preparing to do some work for them. So we are carrying on with that. So we're not going to be sort of sitting on our laurels, but we do feel this is the correct time to wind down the Dennis Boyle Memorial Trophy. And again, I have to say, so many thanks to all of you.
And thank you, Pat, for talking to me today.
Follow us on Instagram at TisTalk Radio.
Now, before we have a little poem from Simon Holder, here are the What's-Ons with Lyle Pointer.
On Tuesday the 28th, starting at 10:30am until 12 noon, the Carer Cafe will take place at Beaton's Tea Rooms, and that is organised by Carer Support Wiltshire. At 6:30pm on Tuesday, the Tisbury Flower Group workshop is in the Hinton Hall. And kicking off at 7:30pm, green drinks are in the Boot Inn for informal chat about environmental issues. This takes place on the last Tuesday of every month, and all are welcome. On Wednesday the 29th at 10am until 12 noon, the Tisbury Memory Group are in Hinton Hall. At 6:30pm, there is a meeting of the Youth Partnership Forum at the Nada Centre. On Thursday the 30th, the tag pantomime Alice in Wonderland is being performed in the Victoria Hall, and there will be repeat performances on Friday and Saturday. Tickets are £12 or £7 for children, but it is half price for the Thursday show. Tickets are from the Tisbury Arts Group website or call 0300 302 3090. On Saturday the 1st of February from 10 to 11am, Tisbury Country Market will be in the Victoria Hall. And remember, later in the day, 2:30 and 7:30, there will be 2 more performances of Alice in Wonderland in the Victoria Hall. And that's it for this week.
Finally, we end with A Concert, a funny poem by Tisbury author Simon Holder. And just a quick plug for his new book, a novel, The Slave Owner's Dilemma. Available now from Amazon for $8.99 or direct from Simon at £7.50, cheaper. His email is simonholder, HOLDER 123@gmail.com.
A concert. I went to see a concert in a church built before the Baroque era, and so witnessed to music from a remoter time, not nearer. The optimism swelled as over 100 people drawn from our goodly nation entered this sanctum of godly warmth in a spirit of intense anticipation. Then the concert began, and we all felt flat, as so were many a dear musician, confounding what we dared not think when buying our tickets for admission. Oh, how those stones must have flinched in pain and muttered copious prayers, for their rendering was less gritty than this ensemble of earnest players. Their instruments were just not attuned to the promise of sweet rendition, and it mattered little whether they were playing from the first or last edition. The people lying there in their tombs who listened there so ghostly must have wondered if these players were in tune. Well, not mostly. And all the bishops, clergy, wardens, reverends there anointed were probably turning in their graves and at least most disappointed to think that their instruments so beautifully made of metal, ivory, wood, could allow themselves to be played by those who were earnest, if not very good. And music which should lift the souls of even the omnipresent dead were glad to be buried beneath the floor in their catafalques of lead. It was all such a shame, as the music in plan was varied, beautiful, charming, composed when recordings, then unknown, made comparisons less harming. But by the end, a chill relief was present in all those who'd come to hear Boccherini, Telemann, Mozart, Bach, or even Meyerbeer, all played with compassion and depth in many a different key. But the prevailing thought was one of relief, played with effort in capital E.
That's all from us. We've been Julianne Murphy
and Mary Myers, with special thanks to Lyle Pointer and Anne Martin.
We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us on tistalkradio@gmail.com.
You can listen every week to a new episode of TisTalk, and you can find any episode you've missed at tistalk.buzzsprout.com. So do listen in next week for more stories from Tisbury. Bye-bye.
Bye.